Welcome to Faith and Fire, where we get a little closer to our faith. Rick Ruger, let's light it up. Oh, welcome to Faith and Fire. Come and take it higher, where we get a little closer. Lift our hearts from the fire. Through the struggle and the pain, we won't ever retire. Find your faith in the word, then we turn up the fire. Yeah, faith and fire, yeah, we taking you higher. Truth in every word, let it build that fire. From the trials to the truth, we rise up, inspire. Rick Ruger bring the message, now we light that fire. Faith, faith, stay in your faith, keep the fire. Welcome to Faith and Fire.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to Faith and Fire. I'm Rick Ruger. What's going on, everybody in the chat? Lisa, my godmother Denise, hey, my brother Jim, Cinematic, what's going on, bro? Hey, good job on that song, Cinematic. That's something else right there. I love it, bro. Good job, man. Love what you did. Oh, hey, thank you, Exec. Happy Sunday to you. Well, that would be thanks to Lisa. Completely 100% thanks to Lisa. She's also updated the regular stuff, too. BDR, what's going on? Nice to see you. Hey. Well, Cinematic, when I heard it, I knew exactly who I had to go to, and I knew exactly what you were going to do. So the honor was all mine there, brother. And it always is. Jim, how you doing today, man? I hope everybody is trying to maintain. Now Jim is going to laugh at us because it's always hot in Florida. And I get that. But for it to feel like 115 in Philly, I was trying to remember when the last time was in Philadelphia that it was 115, and I just can't remember that. And I'm trying to go back to when I was a kid. I cannot remember that. The city is not built for that sort of heat. You know, in Florida, you guys are used to it. There's pools. There's ways to escape it. I mean, even here, the AC units are not even the same. You know, so yeah, it was crazy. Exact. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great Sunday, and I hope you enjoy the stream. So in Florida, like Jim says, yeah, it's something that they come to expect. They come to expect brutalness, right? But for it was like Vegas heat. The only time I had ever been in that sort of heat was Vegas, but there was humidity as well. So 115 with humidity, I don't know that I've even felt that in Florida, Jim, to be honest with you, because Tampa Bay area, yeah, it'll be like 95. It'll average like 95. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's scorching 95 with humidity. That's crazy, right? But for like 115 with humidity, Philly was out of control. So I hope everybody had a great 4th of July and stayed safe. We've come to we love 4th of July, we love our country, but we've come to feel bad for our dogs because in Philly we live close proximity. These are row homes. They're setting off like Roman candles and stuff right in the middle of the street, and my dogs were just beside themselves. My dog last night, we tried to go into the bedroom, and kind of turn the ball game on real loud, and we had the AC unit on. It kind of there was no, you just can't drown it out. My poor baby Katana on the bed trampling me all night long, just running back and forth between my side of the bed and her mother's side. And poor lady in the crate, she was just beside herself. So I've come to I mean, I love Fourth of July, but I've come to understand and know what it's gonna be, what it means for my poor dogs at the end of the night. So yeah. But the sad part is that in most areas now, that would be the end of it, right? But no, no, not in Philadelphia. No, in my city, they'll be setting off fireworks every day, and I mean day, and as well as night, until the next whatever holiday. They don't stop here. It's an all year thing. They've already started again today, and Katana's beside herself. So, oh man, I'm sorry to hear that. Your dog hides in the bathroom, man. Poor baby. All right, so last week we talked about being our brother's keeper. This week I kind of want to keep it there as well. Okay, I kind of want to keep it on the same topic because it really is just that important to everything. I feel like it's important to understand. So I want to talk about it. It's supposed to be the center of a Christian life, and I'm not talking about church attendances or the amount of scripture that you may have memorized, which that's good. Continue to continue to do that. It's not like how loudly you worship, you know what I mean, or in a mega church or anything like that. Uh, it's about helping others. So last week it was, am I my brother's keeper? This week it's, when should we help? When should we help others? Well, Jesus didn't simply tell us to believe in him. Um, he showed us how to live. Everywhere he went, he helped people. If he came across someone that was sick, he healed them. He fed the hungry. He brought comfort to the brokenhearted people. And he welcomed in the rejected and forgave a lot of the guilty. He served the forgotten. When he came, he didn't run to the church. He ran to the streets. His life wasn't centered around what people could do for him. His life was centered around what he could do for others. That's the example that he left for us. Sometimes we think helping others requires something that we don't have, something big. We think we need thousands of dollars, a huge platform, or unlimited time, but God has never measured generosity by size. He measures it by heart. And just a smile could change someone's day. And I know that sounds so silly, right? A smile could change someone's day. It does. It just sounds silly. But I remember one time I was riding the L home from a long day from work. And I just was not in a good mood, and I had a horrible day at work. And I remember sitting in the L seat, and I looked over, and this little baby just smiled at me. Just out of nowhere. Just turned this little head, little cute baby, and smiled at me. Um, Believe it or not, it changed my whole mood. And I know it sounds silly, but a prayer can strengthen someone who's about to give up. Like, you know what I mean? If a smile can change someone's outlook on a day. Imagine what a prayer can do. It can stop somebody from feeling maybe that they're worthless. You can never underestimate what God can do through one simple act of obedience. Denise, I think you're messaging me on the YouTube Messenger. I think you're trying to comment on the stream, but it's coming through on the Messenger. And for some reason, that's some new glitch that's happening with this new Messenger thing. Um, so yeah. Um, so never underestimate what God can do through one simple act of obedience. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says, "Whatever we do for the least of these, we can do for Him." Now think about that. Every person we help is another opportunity to serve Christ Himself. When we feed someone who's hungry, we're serving Jesus. When we visit someone who's sick or lonely, we're serving Jesus. Faith isn't just about what we believe. Faith is something we live, though. James tells us that faith without works is dead. So that doesn't mean that our works save us. Jesus paid the price for our salvation. But genuine faith naturally produces compassion. If Christ lives within us, his love flows through us. Helping others isn't something that Christians are supposed to do once in a while. It's literally it should be. It becomes who you are. If you look around, you can tell that the world is hurting. You don't even have to look at the world. Look at your city. Look at your street, your neighbors. People are hurting out there. People are carrying burdens. People are battling depression and financially things are messed up right now. And a lot of people are trapped in addiction. And you know what the crazy part is, that a lot of people are trapped in a weird combination of the three, of depression, financial, addiction, financial, depression. You know what I mean? Like between the three, you're getting pulled apart. And we always talk about how some people can smile even though inside they're completely falling apart. Remember, you never know the battles that people are fighting. And that's why kindness matters overall. When you have patience, when you have mercy. My brother is one of the most patient people. I swear. I aspire to reach such levels with patience. I really do. Sometimes helping others isn't giving them advice, okay? Sometimes people don't want you to come and try to fix everything, or, like that triggers people sometimes. Sometimes it's just listening, okay? Sometimes in order for them to work out whatever they're going through, they just have to verbally vent it out. And your job in that position is just to listen. You know, Job's friends actually did their best work before they started talking. For 7 days, they simply sat with him in his pain. Sometimes people don't need another sermon. They just need someone to sit with them during their pain. Maybe to cry with them, pray with them. Just anything so that they don't feel alone. Jesus was never in too much of a hurry that he couldn't stop for people. Read the scriptures. He stopped for everybody. People, blind beggars, people that typically everybody else ignores. And how often are we too busy to notice the people that God places right in front of us? I think what the problem is that helping others also requires sacrifice. Love tends to cost something, right? Right, guys? Women ain't cheap. No, okay, I'm just playing. But our comfort, our pride, sometimes our finances, most of the time it's our convenience. We instead of helping somebody, we won't because we don't want to sacrifice our convenience. Jesus didn't follow us from a distance. He came to us. I see somebody in the chat. So is Jesus the real God? Yes, he is. Absolutely. And yes, he proclaimed to be in the Bible. And yes, it says it in the Old Testament. And all of those things, yes. And I've been down that road so many times. Yes, Jesus is Lord. When Jesus came to us, he walked amongst us. He helped carry our burdens. He carried our sins, and then he carried that cross. Real love always involves sacrifice. But here's something that's beautiful. When we give, God has a way of filling us. When we encourage others, our hearts become encouraged. When we bless others, we discover blessings we never expected. In the book of Acts, it reminds us that it's more blessed to give than to receive. Okay, you hear that all the time, right? It's better to give than receive. Well, that's not just talking about money. That's literally talking about life. Some of the happiest people you'll ever meet are people who spend their time serving others. Helping others also keeps our hearts humble. Remember, Jesus, the King of Kings, washed the feet of his own disciples. The Creator knelt down before his creation. So, if the Son of God wasn't above serving others, what makes you think you are? The kingdom of God turns the world thinking upside down. The world thinks climb higher. Jesus says serve lower. The world says make yourself first. And Jesus says the last shall be first. The world tells us take, and Jesus tells us to give. And that's what makes Christianity different, in my opinion. Our greatest example became our greatest servant. Helping others also means forgiving others. Sometimes the greatest gift we can offer to someone else is just grace. And it's not because they've earned it, but because we didn't earn God's grace either. We've all needed forgiveness, and we've all needed God's mercy. We've all needed someone to believe in us when we couldn't believe in ourselves. And God has shown us unbelievable compassion. Now he calls us to extend that compassion to others. So that doesn't mean we ignore wisdom or allow ourselves to be abused, which we're going to talk about that, because healthy boundaries do matter. But bitterness only poisons the ones carrying it. Forgiving people, it sets your heart free and unlocks the doors to that prison. Sometimes the person who needs your love the most is someone who's difficult to love. The example I'm going to give here is Judas, because Jesus loved Judas, okay? He prayed for those who crucified him. He loved the people at their worst, and now that's love. The whole time he knew Judas was going to do what he did, and he never stopped loving him. Not for a second. Jesus, that's what the thing, like, even I say, oh, well, he betrayed him, and then, I get like that too, but why should I get like that if our own Lord and Savior was not like that with Judas? And he forgave him before he even did it. And that's the kind of love that the Holy Spirit wants to develop inside of each and every one of us. And every day we have opportunities, whether it be at work or, you know, in a grocery store, driving down the road. Nowadays, it's probably online. Helping others doesn't stop because we're behind a keyboard. Also, remember that the words we type can heal and hurt. They can build up and tear down. And we know that here at Rickrugerreviews, okay? It's a certain aspect of what we do and how we do things, the way we do it, and why we do things the way we do it here. You got to spread hope, not division. And I hope that that's something that we're doing here at Triple R. Because followers of Christ should be known for bringing light wherever they go. Imagine what would happen if every Christian intentionally looked for one person and helped them every day. Again, it would be a transformation of the world in one day. One act of love at a time, one life at a time. Never believe the lie that your kindness doesn't matter. Because see, that's the devil telling you that. That's the devil trying to separate you from what God is calling you to do. And you know that. And I know that you know that. When you hear that, you have to have the wherewithal to know who that is that's talking to you. Because God is calling you to help others. And Satan does not want that. Okay? Satan doesn't want you doing God's work. But at the end of the day, we're serving Christ. Okay? The devil can get on out of here because we're serving Christ. And you better meet Christ before you meet Christ. Because one day you're going to stand before him. And he's not going to ask you to pull out bank statements or ask you how many followers you have. But you're going to give an account of your life and how you forgave or how you served or how you reflected Jesus in a hurting world. And that's really what's going to matter in that moment. So now, when we have to understand why we should help people, but also need to understand when we should help people. Okay, we should not be abused, you know what I mean, in any way, or taken advantage of, or anything like that. So we're gonna get into that. So, when should we help? Well, according to Jesus, we should always help. But you have to set a certain healthy boundary as well, though. Because helping isn't just about having a good heart, okay? You gotta, hey, Jason, what's going on? Nice to see you. Helping others requires wisdom. It requires compassion, because compassion without wisdom can create problems. And wisdom without compassion can create coldness. And the healthiest people on this planet have learned to balance both. So let's begin with something important, right? Every one of us has needed help. Every single person has been carried by somebody else at some point in their life. When we were born, someone fed us, someone protected us, we went to school, someone else taught us. None of us became who we are, and we didn't get here alone, okay? Just like I said last week, and that's why I'm touching on it again, I felt like it's very important, and I don't know who needs to hear this. Maybe it's me, okay? Maybe I need to hear it. I don't know. But the Holy Spirit was telling me to retouch on this subject and go a little bit more in depth with it for some reason or another, and so that's what I'm doing. Helping others isn't just generosity, okay? It's one way that society keeps moving forward. So imagine a world where nobody helped anybody. What would that look like? There's an accident on the street, nobody stopped to help anybody, nobody volunteered, nobody donated. What if nobody mentored? What would our neighborhoods look like? I think the world would fall apart. Civilizations survive because people choose cooperation over isolation. Okay? Hear that. We survive as civilizations because we choose cooperation over isolation. Helping is part of what allows communities to exist. But here's something interesting. Not everyone needs the same kind of help. Most people need money, right? Nowadays, right? But a lot of people need opportunity. Some people just need to listen, need education, encouragement. One mistake we often make is assuming everybody needs what we want. But helping begins with understanding. Imagine someone drowning. You don't throw them a cookbook, right? You throw them a life preserver. Likewise, someone struggling emotionally doesn't need advice. Sometimes they need someone to just sit with them. Okay? I want to continue touching on this stuff. My brother has been that person for me. Multiple occasions. Helping starts sometimes with just asking questions instead of making assumptions. How about we just ask, what do you need? Right? What if we just get direct and just ask, what do we need? Because those 4 words could change everything. Many conflicts happen because people give the help that they want to give instead of the help that's actually needed. Another thing to remember is that helping isn't always dramatic. Movies have convinced us that helping means heroic moments and saving lives, pulling somebody from danger and jumping into that icy river, right? And of course, yeah, those moments exist, right? But amongst us in a normal setting, every day, right? More meaningful help happens quietly. It's a teacher who stays after class with a student, or a neighbor who helps cut another neighbor's grass, an elderly neighbor's grass. Maybe a coworker notices you're having a rough day, helps you out. You know what I mean? Who knows, right? Small acts repeat consistently often change more lives than one spectacular gesture. There's another reason that helping matters, okay? I think it's infectious. I think it spreads. In fact, researchers have found that when people witness acts of generosity, they're more likely to become generous themselves. So what does that mean? When one person helps another, then another person helps someone else. I remember one time when for y'all that don't know, after I was laid off a while back, I got a part-time job at a McDonald's, ended up becoming basically the manager of the McDonald's, right? One day in the drive-thru, I saw one person, and he said, "I want to pay for the order behind me." And I was so taken back by that. I was like, okay. I told him the amount, and it was a lot. It was like, these are big breakfast orders on a Sunday morning. So the next car pulls up, and he's like, he has the money ready to give it. And I'm like, no, the guy in front of you paid for your order. And he was so blown away that he paid for the order behind him. And I think it went one more time before it stopped. So right there, one person paid for an order, and then 2 more people did it after it. If not, to illustrate my point. It's a ripple effect. And for some things, you may not even see how far your influence traveled. A simple act today may inspire another one tomorrow, another one, and another one. And next thing you know, you're creating cultures, and then you're building legends. And you're building legacies. Some workplaces become known for teamwork, and some neighborhoods become known for looking out for each other. Some families are always known around in the small town for helping people when someone is hurting. That's a culture that was built, that didn't happen by accident. They're built one decision at a time. And I understand that helping people isn't always easy because what? You have to sacrifice what? Your convenience, your time, right? I think sometimes we may be afraid too. What if that person rejects us when we try to help them, or they may take it wrong and think that we're interfering? Or what if they actually do take us up on the offer and then they abuse our help, right? Or they take advantage of us. Chrissy, good morning, bro. Nice to see you. Or afternoon or evening, where you're at. I forget. 5 hours or so ahead of me. Good afternoon, Chrissy. We'll leave it at that. So those fears are real, okay? Boundaries, that's a real thing. But fear should never completely silence your compassion. Many opportunities disappear because everyone assumes someone else will help. I know I've said it before, but I think it bears repeating. It's called the bystander effect. How many times have you seen somebody being assaulted or something really horrible happening and everyone is filming with their phones? They're recording. They're not intervening. They're not helping. They're literally filming. I think that that's proof as a society that we are now in the dredges. Okay, we are now in that phase. I really believe that Revelations talks about. We are just getting started, guys, and who knows what God's timing, but we are just getting started, and what we're talking about right now has become so rare, and it will continue to become even scarcer. But we have to continue to try to build these type of cultures in our communities, in our schools, wherever. Another question is, why do we help, right? Some people help because they genuinely care. Others help because they want recognition. Okay? Some help because they may want favors in return. Motivation, I think, changes everything. Right? Now, if you're helping people with a healthy motive, then it's not about making ourselves look good. It's about making someone else's situation better. Okay, we don't need people watching and applauding, no social media posts, headlines, none of that. Just one person quietly making another person's day a little bit easier. There's something that's deeply admirable about that to me. Sometimes we assume we know what's best for everybody, but we don't. So that's why we have to listen a lot of times to what's really going on and ask them, what do you need? But when does helping become enabling, right? When is there when do you cross that barrier where it goes from I'm helping, I'm being Christ-like, I'm honoring God, to now this person is abusing me and taking advantage of me. And now I think we're going to, this is important. So we're arriving here at a difficult part. the part that doesn't really have simple answers, okay? Because helping isn't always helpful. And doesn't that sound crazy? Helping isn't always helpful. But how can helping someone actually hurt them, right? Well, when our help when our help removes every consequence, solves every problem, and keeps that person from growing, we may have a problem. Okay? You can help someone in one area of their life, but if you have helped them escape all consequences, aka they have protected their peace, okay? You've solved every problem for them, and you have hindered them from growing because you have solved every problem for them. Then we have a situation. Think about learning how to ride a bike, right? Imagine a parent who never lets go of the seat. Well, okay, the child will never fall, right? But then also the child never learns balance. Eventually there comes a moment when the parent has to step back and let go of the seat. And that's not because they don't care. It's because they do care, and growth requires struggle. Every one of us can probably think of a period in our lives where we struggled. Maybe we battled an addiction or something in a failed relationship or something like that. Maybe you wish someone would come and rescue you, right? Well, looking back on that day now, right, I want you to do that. Many of those difficult moments taught you a lesson that you wouldn't have learned if someone came in and solved all the problems for you. Okay, because when you problem solve, what do you learn? You learn confidence, right? You learn the actual skill of problem solving itself, right? You learn responsibility. And above all, you learn resilience. But if someone is constantly solving all of your problems, then you are not growing in these areas. And I do think, I don't know how much plainer I can speak. Sometimes the greatest teacher isn't success, it's adversity. Now, I'm sorry, but that reminds me of something that Rip said on the Yellowstone show yesterday. When he told Carter, he said, "I have lost more in this world than I have won." But it's the truth. That's what life is, and you learn more from the losses. That's what he told him. He said, I've lost more in this world than I've won, but I've learned more. Those losses taught me way more than the victories have. And I don't think it can be said in any simpler terms than that. That's why we got to be careful not to rescue people from every single hardship. And how about this, right? How about the hardships that people put themselves in, right? But constantly, everyone makes mistakes, man, and I get that. But you get these people that are constantly putting themselves in their own hardship, and they get help, right? And then a couple months later or a month later, then here they go again, right? Same hardship, right? Be careful for those people. Watch out for that. Because there's a difference between helping someone through a storm and then carrying them so they never learn to walk through one themselves. Look, imagine that your friend forgets their lunch at wallet. Imagine that your friend forgets their wallet at lunch, right? And you buy their meal, no problem, right? Because that's what homies do, right? But imagine now they forget their wallet every single week. Well, eventually, you're going to feel like this is a joke, right? You're doing this on purpose. You're taking advantage of me, right? But if you keep buying the lunch, you're not helping at this point, you're enabling. Enabling happens when our assistance allows unhealthy behavior to continue without change. So, for instance, if they're going to continue their behavior, if they don't want to change their behavior and the way you're helping them allows them to continue that behavior, you're enabling them and they're not growing. And in essence, they're using you. They're using you so that they don't have to make changes within their own life because you're allowing them to continue in those patterns. Now, I know sometimes we think we're protecting people, but we're not. We're protecting the problem. That doesn't make us bad people. It simply means that compassion has to be paired with wisdom, right? Another example, right? A parent who has an adult child who repeatedly spends money irresponsibly. Every month, the parent pays the bills, right? The child never learns budgeting because someone always fixed the consequence. The parent feels like they're loving and they're doing a good job, but the child stays dependent and neither person grows. Now, compare that to another parent who says, I love you. I'll help you create a budget. I'll even help you find a better job. And I'll teach you how to manage your finances. But I won't continue paying for your choices when you're capable of changing. Doesn't that sound harsher? But in many situations, that's actually more loving because real help often requires courage, right? Another example, you see that these people are constantly ordering DoorDash, right? They're constantly eating out. They're constantly buying the best phones. They have the best of everything. But then when rent time comes, they're on Facebook and they can't pay their rent. They need help, right? They need help. But you've been watching them on Facebook and you've been seeing all the behaviors and stuff. So you don't feel bad, right? That's what I'm trying to say. It sounds harsher, but at the end of the day, you know when people are doing the right thing or trying to do the right thing, and you know when they're taking advantage of you. Well, at least you should know. And that's what you need to look out for. If by helping them, are you allowing them to continue doing what they're doing that put them in that situation to begin with? That cannot be, okay? Because now next month or whenever, here we are again. It's a it's a no go. You got to have the healthy boundaries, like my brother Jim will tell you, because healthy boundaries in a lot of situations will actually strengthen relationships. Because without boundaries, resentment grows. People doing whatever they want, right? The person helping becomes exhausted. The person receiving becomes increasingly dependent, almost expecting it to this point. Eventually, both people become frustrated and a conflict ensues because boundaries weren't established. And if they weren't followed. Boundaries aren't walls, though, okay? They're guidelines. And they define where the passion should end, where the compassion should end, and the responsibility should begin. One question I like asking is this: am I solving today's problem or am I creating tomorrow's problem? That's a powerful statement because temporary relief isn't always long term help, right? This is what I'm talking about. They constantly are putting themselves in the same hardships and looking for a way out every time. Meanwhile, they're living much better than you, okay, between the 1st and the 30th. Okay, they're living much better than you in that month. They're eating better than you. They're having more fun than you. But at the end of the month, they want you to pay their bills. And the world is filled with people like this. And it's a big problem. Now, let's talk about emotional helping. Many people become someone's counselor. Everyone comes to them with their problems. Jim. Every crisis, Jim. Every conflict, Jim. Eventually, they'll become emotionally drained. And why? Because they never learn to say, it's okay, I care about you, but I don't have the emotional energy to carry this right now. Now, that isn't selfish, that's just honest. Now, my brother's never said that to me, so I think he would say it to me though. I think my brother, if he were feeling emotionally drained, if I came to him with some, with my BS on a day that he's had his BS on 10, you know what I mean? Because he has a lot going on. Um, yeah, I would hope that he would say, "Hey, Rick, not tonight, buddy." You know what I mean? Text me tomorrow or whatever. Because the honest truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. All right. If you're emotionally exhausted, you won't be able to help anybody effectively. Sometimes helping others is actually part of, sometimes helping yourself, rather, is actually part of helping others. It's like an airplane, right? Before takeoff, flight attendants, they always give the same instructions, right? The thing, the oxygen mask, right? They put the thing on, right? But what do they tell you though? And I know this is cliche and a lot of people say it, but it fits, right? What do they tell you? Put your mask on first, right? And then help others. Does that sound selfish? I mean, it might, but it isn't. Because if you lose consciousness trying to save somebody else, neither person survives. Now somebody else got to try to save you and the other person. Well, everyday life amongst us works the same way. You got to take care of your health. You got to take care of your mental well-being. Try to take care of your finances. And not because you're selfish, but because healthy people are better equipped to help others. Okay? Now, let's talk about manipulation. And we talked about it a little bit already, but unfortunately, not everyone asking for help is looking for solutions, right? Some people are looking for someone to rescue them indefinitely, right? For a lack of a better word, they're looking for a something to suckle on forever, okay? So that's an important difference, and we need to recognize that. People who genuinely want help usually participate in solving the problem. People seeking rescue often expect someone else to do all the work for them, and they're there to ask when the money's going to hit. And that's about it, okay? If someone rejects every reasonable solution and makes the same choices repeatedly, but then they expect other people to keep fixing everything, the issue may not be a lack of help there. The issue is a lack of willingness, okay? Motivation on their part. And that's difficult to accept because compassionate people naturally want to believe the best in others. And you should. But compassion doesn't require ignoring reality. Okay, another helpful question is this. Is this person asking me for help or asking me to take responsibility for their bad choices? Those are two different things. We could support someone. We cannot live their life for them, though. Helping also doesn't mean saying yes to every request. Imagine someone asks you for money. You don't have enough to comfortably give it. If saying yes means you can't pay your own rent, who have you helped? Or have you simply transferred the crisis from them to yourself? And that's insane. Because healthy generosity never requires destroying yourself. There's another form of helping people that goes unnoticed. Here we go, guys. Accountability. Sometimes the most valued thing you can say is, I believe you're capable of more. Right? Because real friends, they're not just there to comfort us, they challenge us. They tell us difficult truths, but they say it respectfully. And they're there to celebrate in our successes, but they also call us out when we're drifting away from the person that we want to become. That is the best help that I think you can give somebody. Growth rarely happens without accountability. Let's also remember that timing matters. Sometimes people aren't ready for help. Have you ever tried giving advice to somebody who just wasn't hearing it? Doesn't go well, right? People change when they're ready. I think there's enough research done to I think the jury's back on that one. People don't change until they're ready. Not when we're ready for them. It's when they're ready. And sometimes the greatest gift is simply staying available until that moment arrives. Therefore, your helping isn't controlling, it's supportive. There's a huge difference. And finally, remember this: not every problem belongs to you, okay? Some problems belong to professionals, doctors and therapists and addiction specialists, right? Helping someone sometimes means connecting them with the people that have the right training. The Bible tells us to seek counsel, and that you should. Excuse me, there's wisdom in knowing your limits, okay? So you can't be everything for everyone. I don't think anyone can. Ask yourself, who will we help to grow? Who will we help preserve their dignity? When you go to help someone, ask yourself, am I solving the right problem? Or am I transferring the crisis to myself? So, what did Jesus say about helping people? If you ask someone to summarize the life of Jesus in one sentence, they may say, he loved people by helping them. Because he helped the sick and the hungry, comforted the broken. He lifted up those that everyone else ignored. Jesus didn't simply teach compassion, he literally lived it. Jesus also taught that helping people isn't always about money. Listening, forgiving, encouraging, and sacrificing your own comfort at times are examples of the way that Jesus showed his compassion. Jesus was asked, which is the greatest commandment? And Jesus answered in Matthew 22, verses 37 through 39. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. So, there were 10 commandments written, right? A lot of people live by a lot of different codes and mantras and right. But when Jesus himself was asked, what is the greatest commandment? He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart. It's a two-part answer. Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Boom. We know that. Part two was, and love your neighbor as yourself. Bro, that's so powerful. That to him, that was the greatest thing ever. Notice something. He didn't say love your successful neighbor or your nice neighbor, right? He didn't say love the people who agree with you. No, he said love your neighbor, whoever that is. He didn't, right? There was no stipulation. There's no checklist in that department. There was none of that. Love your neighbor, whoever that is. Love your neighbor. Love isn't merely a feeling, because biblical love produces action. If someone is hurting, then the love helps them. If someone's lonely, love notices. One of Jesus' greatest teachings comes in Luke 10. It's where a man is beaten, he's robbed, left for half dead. Several religious people just walk right by him. They see him, but they just keep walking. Then comes a Samaritan, right? Someone's society expected to ignore him. Instead, he stops, bandages the wounds, carries the man, pays for his care. Then Jesus then asks, which one acted like a neighbor? The answer, the one who showed mercy. Then that's when Jesus said, go and do likewise. Notice, helping someone often begins with one simple decision. Stop walking past them. People don't need miracles. They just need someone who's willing to help. But you have to be able to see people, right? You walk through Center City, Philadelphia, there's so much chaos. It's just, and honestly, do you even see it anymore? Do you see the individual person? The people, like all the other people walking on the street, do you actually see them? Jesus saw all of them, touched them, forgave them. When everyone overlooked children, Jesus welcomed them. Helping begins when we start looking through the world. Helping starts when we stop looking through the world's eyes and begin looking through Christ. Maybe some of Jesus' strongest words came in Matthew 25. Jesus says, I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty. I was a stranger. I was sick. I was in prison. The people ask, when did we ever see you? Jesus answers, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So what that means is every little act of kindness that comes from the right motivation is done for the person that you're doing it for and also for Christ. That's some of the most powerful stuff, man. Think about that. Every act of kindness, Jesus takes it personally. Literally, he takes it personally. Every meal you serve or every helping hand, every encouraging word, every sacrifice, Jesus says, I received that. It's almost like helping people becomes a form of worship. I hope I'm on the right path when I say that. Sometimes love requires action, okay? It's easy to say I care, but it's harder to show it. Remember when I talked about how Jesus washed the disciples' feet? Think about that. The Most High, the King, right? The Lord of all lords. Then he says, I have set an example. Okay, greatness in God's kingdom isn't measured by how many people serve you. It's measured by how many people you serve. Jesus warns about doing good just to be seen, okay? So Jesus talks about the bad motivations that may be behind wanting to help in certain situations. In Matthew 6, he says, acts of charity shouldn't be done for an applause. Because if applause is our reward, then we've already received it, right? So what he's telling you is, if you're looking for salvation doing that, right? Now, Jim, am I on the right path here? What he's saying is, if you're looking for salvation doing that, you can forget it, because the reward, you wanted the reward of applause, and you got that already, right? So those acts, Jesus doesn't take personally. Am I on the right path here? Those types of acts with bad motivation, Jesus doesn't take personally. Real compassion happens even when no one notices. Some of the greatest Christians who have ever lived died with no fame, no followers, platform, none of that. Jesus lives filled with quiet acts of kindness, but God notices every single one of them. One thing Jesus continuously demonstrated was compassion came before the correction. Before he changed lives, before he loved people. Sometimes Christians reverse that order. We want people fixed before they're loved. Jesus loves first. Then lives are changed. Helping someone doesn't require agreeing with every decision they've ever made. It requires recognizing that they still have value. So, how true is this? You say, oh, well, I don't mess with that person because of this, that, and the third, right? So, you're already doing the opposite, right? You can't, you're not loving them because you want them to be fixed first. And then now, oh, now I can mess with them, right? But that's not what Jesus says. Jesus says, I'm going to mess with them right now. I don't care about the differences. You know what I mean? Or I don't care what you think is wrong or whatever, because all of us have flaws. We like to do that. We like to point someone else out and say, oh, because maybe their flaws in your mind are worse. I guess that makes us feel better about us. Real compassion is rarely convenient, okay? And this is what I mean. This is why a lot of people don't help, because it requires sacrifice of convenience. Time. I think people would rather help with money. How much you need? You know what I mean? How much you need right here? I think people would rather do that. Okay, because that's easier. Okay, yeah, man, how much you need? Here you go. Because if it's something that's going to require time or energy, most people are out at that point, as sad as that is. But Jesus is never out. Jesus never promised serving others would be easy, though. In fact, he demonstrated quite the opposite, right? He served us on the cross. Love gives, love serves, and then love sacrifices. So if you're not willing to do these things, then do you even love this person? I mean, the implications are crazy. Okay, but we need to understand that small acts do matter. Sometimes we think helping others, right? We got to make a big splash to help them, right? But that's not what Jesus came and did, right? Jesus focused on a lot of small stuff, right? A cup of cold water, a visit, a meal, small acts, right? But done consistently. That's what changes lives. We have to understand, too, that we all need help sometimes. That's one of the main reasons that Jesus teaches us to help others. Because every one of us will someday need help ourselves, right? Life changes quickly. Yeah, we're flying high this week, right? Right? What did Jay-Z say? It was all good just a week ago, right? Everything can be great. And then life has this thing, right? Life has this thing, and it can throw you a curveball. The strong can become weak overnight, it seems, right? And the healthy can get sick overnight, right? Helping today reminds us that tomorrow we may be the one needing someone else's kindness. So, if Jesus walked through our neighborhoods today, where would he go? Well, my guess is he'd probably visit places many people avoid. If Jesus came to Philadelphia, would he go to City Hall? Would he go to Penn's Landing? No. I think we know where Jesus would go. Jesus would go to Kensington. Right? Let's be honest here. If Jesus came to Philadelphia, where do you think Jesus would go down to Pat's and Gino's and get a cheesesteak? Or would he go straight to the place that everyone else avoids? I promise you, I know that I'm right about this. He would go there to try to stop the grieving. Not try, okay, because he's God, all right? He would go there to encourage the discouraged. He would feed all the hungry. He would forgive the broken. He would make people whole. And then he would turn to one of us and say, go and do likewise. Helping people, it's not about becoming famous, okay? And it's not even about earning God's love or getting recognition. I believe it's about reflecting the heart of Christ. When we help someone in need, we become living reminders that God's love is still active in this world, in this crazy world. All right, so this week going forward, ask yourself who needs help or just encouragement. Because sometimes the greatest sermon you'll ever preach to somebody won't come from a stage. It'll come from the compassion you show to somebody who never expected it to come. May we be people that don't just hear the words of Jesus, but live by them by loving and helping others every chance we get. I want to thank you guys for joining me this week. I love you guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Denise, I tried to text you, but I don't think my phone is messed up. I don't think the messages are going through. But I just wanted to check in with you and see how you were doing, and things like that. But no, everybody. See, this is what I'm saying. Everybody avoids that area, but Jesus would not avoid that area, right? Would Jesus avoid Kensington? No, I think Jesus would make a beeline. I think Jesus would land in Kensington. Literally, if he were to come to Philadelphia, I think he would land directly at Kensington and Allegheny and then just start his walk from there. I do believe that with all my heart. What we avoid, he runs to. Thank you guys for joining Rick Ruger today on Faith and Fire. And remember one thing. Jesus is the light and the way, the truth, and Jesus died for you.
When the flames die down, let your face stay lit. When the world goes dark, don't you ever quit. Through the smoke, through the scars, through the fire, we walk by faith. We were built for the fire. Fear my living.
Some of you almost gave up this week.
Built for the fire.
But you didn't. That fire you feel,
Fear my living.
it's not there to break you. It's there to shape you.
Built for the fire. Stay grounded. Stay grounded. Stay burning. Till next time. Until burning. Stay burning. Till next time. Keep your faith. Let your father so slow. Sweet light stay. your faith as you face life's fire. Stay grounded.
Stay grounded. Stay grounded. Until next time, keep your faith as you face life.